Evening everybody, Rich here, back for another From the Depths video here. Not sinking ships today though, we're going to be looking at the Mamba that I built, the ship that is responsible for all the sinking ships videos that I've done. So yeah, this is basically what I've, or the evolution of what it come up with, or what I come up with anyway. Go from the original over in the distance to what we have today. And the frame rate is lagging like hell because of the amount of ships we've got on show. But we're just going to fly down to the beginnings here and show you what we started off with. Now this first ship, which is called the Split Double, which is sort of a pretty basic name for it, but this is not built by me. This is actually built by my buddy Adzi. He built this not long after we started playing From the Depths, and it looks pretty good, doesn't it? It's not very good armor wise, but it's a good design nonetheless because it consists of two hulls, as you can see, and then they're connected in the middle with a heavy armoured cockpit section, as you can see here. And the ammunition is pretty good. You've got guns all down the sides, you've got torpedoes underneath, and it looks pretty good. Although it is flawed, which is, an honest thing, but we were still learning the basics of the game. As you can see, there's a lot of kibble underneath, which is very vulnerable. Got the rotating torpedoes there, which is also really good. But this is what I just sort of start off with showing you this. That's the Split Double, not designed by me, but I took inspiration though, and what I come up with was the Empress, the submarine. I've already done a video of this thing, and yeah, it didn't operate too badly. It rises, it sinks, it operates as a proper submarine. But it was absolutely useless in multiplayer though, because I don't know if it's an issue on my side or it's an issue with the actual game. But whenever I use something with hydrofoils and not hydrofoils, the up and down thrusters, whenever I use them on multiplayer, the game goes into spasm and crashes for some reason. I don't know why that is. That yeah, it's an issue with either with me or with the actual game. That just makes this thing completely useless as multiplayer, which completely, defeats the object of why I built it. But this is what it is. It's the Empress, and I just raise it out of the water so you can see what it consists of. It's basically it's the same principle I used throughout all my ships. It's got the same basic shape, but with up and down thrusters underneath. You can see the torpedo hatches along the sides, and the same side pods. Basic design, but we also got the big gun or torpedo mantles on the top and the sides, and also the upwards facing rockets as well, although they're currently torpedoes, and now the dog's barking as well, which really doesn't help. I think she shut up now. So yeah, what we're doing, we've got the these are upward pardon me, they were upward facing torpedoes, although they're meant to be rockets. I never got round to actually changing them because I kind of abandoned this thing not long after the video I done, but it works, it's functional, and it's basically used now as target practice. But it's not too bad. A bit flawed in most areas. I mean, it's pretty draggy, and it's like I said, it's flawed. But yeah, it works as a submarine, and it looked pretty good. But nonetheless, it's kind of abandoned. So that is the Empress, and we'll just get out of that. And then what I'd done, I moved on to create the, I can't remember if it's the Raptor or the Hunter. I think it's the Hunter with this one. If I just zoom to this one, that is the Hunter. Yeah, the Hunter is this one, which is, you can see where the Mamba is coming from. It's got the big gun on the top. The gun on the big gun on the top though is actually an afterthought, because originally it's going to be basically this shape but without the gun, and it's going to be suspended gun. It's going to have two arms coming up from the side pods, as you can see where the torpedoes are. They're going to be two big arms coming up, and there's going to be a gun or a line of guns hanging from a bar between them. But the concept has never really worked because I sort of ran out of ideas as I went along. But yeah, it looked ridiculous as well, and yeah, it was flawed. So what I come up with is, well, I didn't really come up with it. I just strolled through the Steam workshop and eventually found this enormous gun and managed to shoehorn it into the insides of this thing. It did weigh it down an awful lot, because with this thing it is flawed to no end. Because I mean, it was flawed right from the beginning, to be honest, because it was made out of, as you can see, it's made out of metal and heavy armour, and because I was still basically learning the game, I thought I'd try staggered armor like this. It doesn't work. Some bits ricochet, but some bits don't. And it's just me trying to make the thing as fortified as ever, or as fortified as it could be, as well as keeping the weight down. But it really didn't work because of the metal. It just sat so low in the water as well. It really wasn't really worth carrying on with. And because it sat so low in the water, I mean, literally the water line was below the gun mantle. Hence why this lip just under the gun was created. So whenever you hit a bad wave, or whenever the sea was choppy, once the water got into the gun mantle, the ship was knackered. It was going to sink. So that was this ship was pretty much useless right from the beginning, and it never really took off from there. It was a good firing ship. I mean, you could use it as to defend yourself, but it was, once it had a shot, or once the waves got a bit choppy, it was useless, and it was a real tragedy. I had to abandon it. So yeah, that's the Hunter, and but you can see where the Mamba originated from. It's just like a bit of a fatter version. But anyway, I abandoned that one and went off to create the the Raptor, which is basically the same thing, still with the staggered armor, but I just reduced a lot of weight with it, and we also added the rockets on the top, and it performed better, but still, because of the weight issue, it still sank. I mean, we got a bit more protection around the base of the gun, but still, once the water got up there, it was knackered. So it was just gonna sort of tip up, and then sink stern first. It looked pathetic. And also, if you took a corner slightly wrong as well, took a corner a bit too tight, the thing would just flood and would sink, and it was laughable. But yeah, it didn't really go too well from there. So that was another project abandoned. And then eventually I come up with the idea to use light alloy. So we moved on now to the first of the Mambas. As you can see, it is quite a bit bigger, and also the nose is in the water as well. So if we go to this view here, you can see the Raptor and the Hunter are sort of woodlouse shaped, quite short and fat, and then the Mamba, the first Mamba, is quite wide and quite long, and also has fins on the back. So there's plenty of propulsion and plenty of armament as well. So it's the same basic process, or same basic design, but designed more with weight being reduced, and also with the gun on top in favour as well. So I mean, I basically built the ship around the gun. I mean, if you look inside, the gun is one thing up there, but the whole mechanism of the gun is all this here, and this takes up a huge amount of space. And as you can see, it goes right through the width of the ship, but it's fortified on side and the bottom, and yeah, it didn't look too bad. But you got the ammunition rack is right in front of the gun, so it's pretty flawed in that department, and also around the back as well. But yeah, the gun is one thing, but you needed the mechanism inside, so I managed to shoehorn it all together in the first two. But when it came to designing this one, I built the ship around that gun. And as you can see, it sits further forward as well. The gun is a bit more forward, more central. So the ship sits much better in the water. The reason the nose is down is because I got it in shallow water, and the fin is on the sandy bottom. So that's the issue there. But as you can see, we added a lot more ammunition to the thing. It's still a work in progress at the time, so I basically just stuck torpedoes on any surface that was available. And the propulsion wasn't that great either, but that was all cleared up later on by a chap on Steam, and I also got torpedoes facing to the sides as well. But yeah, it's you can see where the thing is moving on. So that was the first, well, this is one of the first editions of the Mamba. It had updates as well, but this is basically the thing there. Because it used light alloy as well, it is pretty fragile. So with the Mamba, it's sort of it's one of those ships where you got to be the first one to fire, because once you get the first shots of torpedoes out, you're pretty much going to win the fight, unless it's a flying ship you're up against. But once you get those torpedoes launched, you're going to win the fight. But if you take damage, then you're badly wounded. So that is the first of the Mambas. Then we move on to the next Mamba, which is sort of the last one I got. Well, it's not really the last one I got involved in. It's sort of the last one, which is sort of my type of design. A lot more changes to it. I mean, the top is now heavily armoured. The gun is heavily armoured as well and reduced in size. The shell, so reduced the weight there. But we put a shell on the top, and basically created a sort of sarcophagus around the gun mantle itself, and also to protect the heavy armour inside. Because the ship was quite fragile in that department. I mean, once you got a shot inside the gun mantle, the thing was knackered. So heavy armour on the top covered that off, and it was a lot better. A few more torpedoes as well, a bit more trim as well with the the yellow stripes and the yellow flashes on the side there. The torpedoes on the sides now were encased in the side pods, and much better design there. And also added torpedoes to the side here, making the nose of the fuselage, if you like, or the hull, slightly narrower. So if I zoom to the top here, you can see around the front of this Mamba here, the Mamba fin, this version is called. You can see it's much narrower here, whereas on the old Mamba, it's sort of a continuous curve. But we cut a side, or I cut a side off a section of the side off, and used it to put torpedoes in. So that was what that was all about. And as you can tell between the two versions here, there's a lot more paint application with this one. More yellow stripes, more go faster stripes. And yeah, it's a much more responsive gun as well. The gun's still slow at reloading, still slow at turning, but we had a bit more arc with it as well, so the gun could go further up, and basically just extended the barrel to make it a bit more long distance firing. So that is that version of the Mamba. We added I keep saying we added. It's basically all me doing this. No one else got involved. Well, not until the last version anyway. But so I think this version is the one that's on Steam. So if you look on my Steam profile, Richlarrousse, and you'll see that this is the version that is available on Steam. Flawed but deadly effective. So that is that. So that is that version of the Mamba there. And then the last version, which is this one here, is one that was modified by, I think his name is Avelna. And basically what he done, he tidied up the hydrodynamics, made it a bit more sleek. Added areas with a bit more curving on the side, and also on the underside as well, straightened off and made the areas smoother, so there's less drag, and also added a bit more propulsion as well. So there's more propellers on the stern, so the ship will travel like stink now. It really does go. The only things I made different to it is the tail fins, because I tried to add docking ports, but they didn't work. And I've also added a couple of independent torps on the bow here. So we've got two small torpedoes here. These ones are for, well, they don't have fins on them, so they're basically just for direct fire in a straight line. Whereas the rest of the torpedoes have they can travel. They can move left and right. They can go up and down. They have fins on them basically. And what else Mr. Avelna has done as well is increase the gun gauge as well. So the gun is even more deadly than it was, and also it added a bit more armor, made the gun more responsive, faster aiming, faster turning, faster reload, and yeah, made it a hell of a lot better. And also added a staggered fire mechanism to each torpedo stack, so the torpedoes do not detonate each other. So they go off independent. One at a time basically, and as you see in my recent videos, the torpedoes just go off and pretty much ravage anything they come up against. So this thing, like I said with the previous version, is a winner if you get the first shot out, and you pretty much win the battle once you get those first shots out. If you lose, you're going to lose catastrophically, but once you get those torpedoes fired, it's a win-win situation. And we've got a bit more paint application on this one as well. But that is the most recent version of the Mamba. Contribution from Mr. Avelna as well. There will be a newer version as well. I've not got to that, but as you can see, the evolution of the Mamba is such, and it came from a small boat, a catamaran thing, if you like. But that is all the Mambas, the Raptor, the Hunter, and the Empress. And the evolution, basically. I know not a lot of people are going to be interested in this, because I mean, there's only a few people who actually have the Mamba. But yeah, that is basically what I've come up with. And for those of you who were interested, that is where it all stemmed from. It basically just stemmed from a little split double fuselage thing down here. And I will ask Adam as well if he wants to put this on the Steam Workshop. I don't know if he has yet, but I think he needs to update it before he does, because it's a bit pissed on one side. I don't know if it's oh, it's because it's stuck on the sand. That's why. I think, yeah, it will float properly. It's just where it's stuck. So that's the reason there. But the Empress, I may, if you want that put on Steam Workshop, I will do. It's basically just target practice though. It's not really used as anything. But everything else, the Raptor and the Hunter are just relics now. But the Mamba is available on Steam Workshop. Both these last two versions are available. Like I said, if you want the version, this version is available on my Steam Workshop page, and this one is available on Velna's. I think that's how you pronounce it. But he left a link in the comment of my version, so if you just go to my one, and you'll see his version in the link. So that is those two versions of the Mamba there. Both pretty deadly and pretty well designed to a degree. But yeah, that is the evolution of the Mamba, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, I really should have painted it black, really, shouldn't I? But never mind. But anyway, this is Rich signing off, logging off, and disappearing. And thank you for taking an interest, if you are interested. But hey ho, never mind. So I shall disappear now. So bye for now.